Hey guys, and welcome to Let's Play Armored Core 4 Answer. So, essentially after finishing my Metal Gear Solid 3 Let's Play, I decided to ask a few of my friends and my cousin towards what I should Let's Play next. And I don't know, I was looking for a shorter game to Let's Play, and Armored Core 4 Answer is definitely like a shorter game for the most part. So that sort of fit the bill. The other games I had in mind were Zone of the Enders, more so the first one, just because I wanted to cover the first one before I go into the second one, but Zone of the Enders and Ace Combat 5. Now, Ace Combat 5 is probably a little bit more on the longer side, but essentially, I guess a little bit more. I've been in more of a mech-action mood, so that's why I sort of chose those games. And asking a friend of mine and then asking my cousin, my friend said, you know, I would check out like Armored Core. I want to see what that's all about. So why don't you let's play that? I was like, okay, sure. I asked my cousin, and he said Ace Combat and Zone of the Enders were a lot more story focused. So he thought maybe I should try doing something a little bit more less story focused if I want to take things a little bit more easy without having to fall in the backdrop of like a story or whatever and have a little more commentary. So I guess, yeah, Armored Core is pretty good for that too, because there's a story, but it's not like as heavily presented. It's well, for one, it's developed by From Software, so the story is told through a lot more lore and stuff that you pick together, like that you sort of like pick apart through usually the radio conversations and the dialogue that some characters have, as well as reading pretty much lore background on some of the armored cores that you face against and everything. So yeah, that was sort of I guess one of the points that my cousin made, and I personally thought, yeah, there aren't very many Let's Plays of Armored Core, or at least maybe For and For Answer on YouTube. And the only one I could think off the top of my head that really stuck out to me was by Ramza411. I watched his Let's Play ages ago. He had a really good Let's Play with a few good tips that definitely helped me with my time playing through this game. So yeah, I thought, well, I guess I'll try doing a Let's Play of Armored Core and sort of like talk a little bit about it, because it's so funny whenever people bring up the Armored Core series, because they're like, whenever they're talking about mech customization, for example, they're like, oh yeah, it's almost like something out of Armored Core. How many people, like, how many of you guys have actually played Armored Core? I'm curious. So I don't know, drop like your thoughts in the comments or whatever. But yeah, so I guess this is my opportunity to sort of show off what the series is kind of all about. I have more so experience with Armored Core 4 and For Answer. I have played the older ones, but I haven't finished any of them. They're way too difficult for me. So most of my time has been spent with For and For Answer. So I'm gonna let the introduction roll, and then I'll talk a little bit more after that.
More than 10 years have passed since the National Dismantlement War. A league of corporations has taken control of the world. To escape the pollution that poisons the surface of the planet, they have built massive floating platforms called cradles. Only there, 7,000 meters above the ground, is the air clean and safe. Already half of mankind lives in the skies. The planet's surface has become a battlefield where armies fight to control the resource plants that feed the cradles. As the war came to a close, giant humanoid weapons called Armored Core Nexts enabled the League to firmly establish their rule of the planet. Their pilots are called Lynx. Fearing the power and independence of these Nexts, the League left them behind on the surface. The Lynx now work as mercenaries for an organization called Collard. While the League armies derive their power from massive arms forts, the once mighty Nexts are consigned to the poisoned Earth, serving as foot soldiers in the never-ending economic war.
Okay, so a little bit of exposition there, and it's pretty straightforward. Like, I've heard the argument that the story is pretty convoluted. Not necessarily. Like, if you want to dive into like the lore stuff, yeah, it can get a little pretty complicated, and some of it is sort of left up to your discretion, I suppose, or what you make of it. So very similar to a Souls game. In fact, like I said, this is developed by From Software, right? So pretty much before all of your Souls games that we have nowadays, From Software made Armored Core. That's one of their biggest titles. However, if you really wanted to dive into the what really started Souls games, go and look up Kingsfield, because Kingsfield was actually where all this sort of Souls, medieval, like dark fantasy themes and game style came from. So the first Kingsfield game was on the PS1. I don't know too much about it. The only bit I know about it was actually more so through a Let's Play by the Let's Player Scribe. He did Kingsfield 4 on the PS2, so that's more so how I know about that series, because he talks a little bit more depth about it. And to start about what Kingsfield is like, it's almost like a Souls game in first-person view mode, to really loosely put it. Okay. So, Armored Core for answer, what can I say? There's a lot to sort of unpackage with this game, but to start off, you will be spending the majority of your time in this screen and in this menu, because the whole core, no pun intended, of the game is to customize your own mech, your Armored Core mech. Now, it gets into a crazy amount of depth, like a stupid, absurd amount of depth, like tuning cars, like real cars amount of depth. So, allow me to show you. We have, so assembly here is where you get all the parts to pretty much assemble, well, that's why assemble the Armored Core. Now, I've clocked in almost 200 hours in this game, and most of those hours have been spent on tuning my Armored Core. I'm pretty sure like maybe 30 to 50 of those hours is actual gameplay. But the majority of it is all just customization. So you can swap out your right arm weapon, because you can carry a total of 5 technical like weapon category parts, at least like on where it's carried. So you have your right and left arms, which can be your Gatling guns, your rifles, your bazookas, grenade launchers, etc. You name it, blades. So those go in your left and right arm units. And then you have shoulder units. So shoulder units could be missile launchers, as you saw right there. So missile launchers, laser cannons, sniper rifles, and grenade launchers. Yeah, there's a grenade launcher right there. And then you have the shoulder units, which are sort of like your auxiliary unit categories. So they could be additional missile launchers or side boosters to help with side strafe dashing if you're going for a mobility build, because once again, having its roots in it from the From Software company, it's almost like got RPG elements in that sense that you can build your Armored Core to fit a specific build or play style. You can also stick jammers onto the side of your Armored Core. And then you have hanger units, which are sort of your sidearm components. I never really use any of these. I did for a little while, but the reason why I opted out of that is because of, well, the weight. Because, yeah, statistics in this game. This first video is probably going to be a lot about statistics and talking about, like, what the game is all about before I actually get into gameplay. So, yeah, like, look at all these freaking numbers. So, it gets really complicated, and the game does not do anything to tell you about what do all these components do. So, I'll run you through it real loosely. So, AP is pretty much your hit points, your HP, your health. You don't have a health bar, it's mainly just numbers. So, yeah, one of the things I kind of had to get used to, because I didn't really like the aspect about Armored Core games, is that you don't have a health bar, it's just all numbers. General firepower, so yeah, how much like attack power your Armored Core has. So anti-primal armor capability. So PA stands for primal armor. So primal armor, to put it simply, think of it like the shields in Halo. So it pretty much buffs like your defense and stops any sort of damage. Granted, in Halo, you pretty much just take like 0 damage as long as your shields are up, right? In Armored Core, not so much. You still take some damage, but depending on how good your primal armor is, it'll mitigate a certain amount of the damage you take. Combat range, so sort of how well like you can fight from like close range, mid range, or far distance. So whether you're a sniper build, a mid range fighter, or a close quarters like blade build, because there are those types of builds. Ballistic defense, how is it going to stop against normal bullets and shells? Energy defense, so anything that's like a laser weapon. How good your primal armor is, so your own shielding system. So right, anti-primal capability is how well it can break through enemy shields. This is how well your shield is going to work. Stability, let's see, indicates stability of the AC. The larger this value is, the more stable the AC will be when firing or receiving fire. Okay, so think of stability as stagger. So how well your armored core is going to function whenever it fires like a giant cannon, like its recovery animation, sort of, if you want to look at it that way, or how well it's going to recover from getting hit by something like a grenade shell. Energy recovery, this is pretty much your stamina. So it's your stamina stat and how fast you will recover your stamina. I really do value this, as that is sort of how I build my armor core. My armor core is sort of like a mid-weight mobility build with levels of versatility to it. Average speed, so pretty self-explanatory how fast your armored core is going to be moving around. So once again, mine's a mid-weight build. Boost duration, once again, self-explanatory how long you got a boost for moving around. Turning ability is how fast your armored core will pivot left or right, and pretty much this game related to a lot of like Souls-like games, circle strafing. A lot of circle strafing. So that's what turning ability does. Lock-on capability, so this is either how fast your armor core will lock on to a certain target and sort of track it, as well as how far, depending on the type of build you have going. If it's a sniper build, it's going to lock on pretty far, and it'll be worse at tracking whenever you get closer, obviously, because you're a sniper. If it's a short or mid-ranged lock-on system, then vice versa. You'll track a lot better when you're up close, but from long range, not too much. And detection ability is how well your radar is going to work. And now that I'm a bit older, I used to not really like use the radar as much as a kid. Like I used to just keep my eyes glued to the screen and just watch from there. But now that I'm older and playing a lot more Ace Combat, I realize how much you can really keep track of things with the radar, especially with the missiles, because by God, the freaking missiles in this game, I guarantee you're not going to dodge all the missiles. You're going to dodge at least, like, at best 60% of them. However, I suppose it depends on the kind of player, because there are some crazy Japanese players out there. So maximum weight, so the weight of your armored core, that can affect your mobility, obviously your energy recovery. Your maximum load is how much it can carry before it pretty much ends up over encumbered. So almost like in a Souls game, wherever you carry too much armor, you have your mobility ratings, which can affect your armor and how fast you roll and everything. So that can be extended depending on how you've tuned your armored core here. So total energy costs, how much energy consumption that you're going to be running through with your armored core, and energy supply, so how big your stamina pretty much is. So that is the rundown. The game does not tell you any of that shit. It took me at least the first 100 hours of just playing around in this game with trial and error before I figured out all these stats on my own. Thanks to a few YouTubers like Ramza411, I learned a bit about some of the statistics to this game. Okay, so here we go. We get to like the heads. You can customize all the heads, and you might recognize this Armored Core frame and the body to be similar to the one in the intro cutscene. So to talk about that, the Armored Core in the intro cutscene is white glint, one of the most iconic within the series, I would say, next to maybe Nine Ball if you're a Armored Core veteran. So badass mech, I absolutely love it. What Armored Core fan doesn't love white glint or badass mech? So it's one of the builds that I usually do like to use. I either use that or the Alia type, which I'll show you some of the schematics I got. And yeah, this is like a rough overall graph of like the statistics on my Armored Core. And I usually try to keep my mobility above 60. Attack is about 50. So that's sort of how I prefer my builds. It's a bit of like, there are some builds that I really build for specific missions, but that's more so if I'm actually trying to grind out for like a high rank, like an S rank or whatever. But those days are kind of over for me because, well, I already S ranked everything on normal. I haven't done it on hard mode in this game. I'm probably never gonna do it because I don't really have the time or commitment to go that hard into this game anymore. So let's see, your FCS, so pretty much your computer system with like the lock-on speed and etc. Like you can see right there on the bottom left segment. So this is sort of a jack of all trades computer system. Your generator, pretty much the engine of your Armored Core. So how much energy output. So for car enthusiasts, you can always think of how much horsepower and all that stuff. There's a translation of like all these statistics, right? So you can see like wherever I'm scrolling up and down, you can sort of see what drops, what goes up, which is kind of funny because the generator I'm using is actually for like a heavy build Armored Core. Like you can see what it's built for, so light, mid, or heavy. So my Armored Core, it's a midweight, but it's got a freaking like beast of an engine essentially. Boosters, so light boosters is what I got here. They're also broken into four segments, yeah. So main boosters, so those would be your back boosters. Well, okay, not back boosters per se, but where are the back boosters here? Because the game sort of highlights them whenever you look on the statistic on the right, but yeah. So main boosters, back boosters, and side boosters, and overboost. So side boosters help you strafe dash side to side. It'll make more sense when I show some gameplay. So like I said, this video is probably just gonna be an introduction, running you guys through all the mechanics before I actually get to the actual story and gameplay. Overboost. So overboost is pretty much your sprint in this game, and there's also a stat called Assault Armor. However, I never use it. You see White Glint use it in the intro cutscene where it sort of opens up some components. The eyes, the lenses with like the eyes and the cameras shut for a second. There's that shockwave that it emits. So that's Assault Armor. I don't use it. I don't know anybody who really actually uses it. It's kind of like a suicide attack, if you really want to view it that way, because what it does is it overloads your primal armor to detonate an explosion, which will destroy the enemy's primal armor. So it's a huge like risk-reward type build and attack. So you're giving up your defense and destroying your enemy's defense if they're within range, just so that you get an overall attack boost. I don't bother using it. In fact, I just use the machine guns to whittle down shields and just hammer somebody with my grenade launcher. That's my strat. So once again, think of Halo. If you have a assault rifle or the SMG, you just shoot through somebody's shield and you pull out like something like a shotgun or a heavy hitting gun and just pulverize them with it right after their shields are gone. That's pretty much my strat. In fact, I'll probably be using quite a few Halo references in terms of like strategy to help relate for you guys. So yeah, that's the assembly of the Armored Core. Tuning is a little bit more in-depth, and like in terms of pretty much how you can tweak the finer nuances on your Armored Core. So I maxed out all of like the components within the energy capacity segment. So that's why my Armored Core has a lot of stamina and energy capabilities. Even though I don't use energy weapons, I use mainly ballistics. I don't like using energy weapons because it's very much almost like using stamina, quite a bit of your stamina to fire some of the weapons, and I don't want to use any of my stamina. I only want to use my stamina to dodge enemy attacks. Is essentially a build there. So yeah, there's that. And right, I guess to talk a little bit about the tuning here, it's these little points here are FRS memory points, which stands for fractional regulation system memory or something like that. I have to take a look at the wiki again. So think of them like your XP points, but you can reallocate them to whichever category you want. There is a fixed amount of FRS memory points in the game. I don't remember exactly how many there are. I want to say 450, maybe 500. I don't know. Armored Core veterans, help me out in the comment section, I suppose. But you get FRS memory points just by playing through the game and playing through some of the missions on hard. And I suppose S ranking some of them is how you get some of these memory points. So yeah, lock on speed, how fast I can track enemies. I explained that. Radar refresh rate is sort of how... Okay, so to explain how this works, it's like whenever you got a blip on your radar, it blinks. It pretty much dictates how fast it blinks and whatnot. So that's that statistic there. Special boost, so quick boost, it pretty much tunes the efficiency of your boosting capability. That's more so for my main boosters, and these are my side boosters, so side strafing. And then we got what is it? Okay, turning capability. So I explained that earlier. So how fast you turn and pivot, you can increase that speed by allocating points into this category. Oh man, I almost hit the 30-minute mark here, so I'm gonna have to try wrapping this up here pretty soon. So stabilizers. This pretty much, aside, like for the most part, people usually slap on like neat little components like these kunai-looking stabilizers as an aesthetic. However, depending on how much you invest in this game, how much you actually play it, it might be a little bit more of a importance. Because what it does is it helps balance out your Armored Core's weight, like its center of gravity. For example, if you had like something like a giant laser cannon on the right side of your Armored Core, it'll probably feel like it's leaning more towards the right because of the weight from that laser cannon. So you could slap on a stabilizer to help balance out the weight of your Armored Core. You're not going to notice it too much if you're just playing the game for like the hell of it, or maybe casually, but if like you really are like a player who like lives and breathes the game, then yeah, you might want to use stabilizers to balance all that out. Paint is vice versa, not vice versa, self-explanatory. You can come up with whatever paint schemes you want for your Armored Core. You can paint it like from the lights of the visor to your color of your guns and other components and everything like that. You can also make your own emblems, and yeah, I made quite a few. So those are all custom, like from the wolf here all the way up to this one is all custom. The other ones are ones that you get by beating other Armored Core pilots in the game. So that is paint job. And the shop, self-explanatory. It's where you buy all your parts and whatnot. You unlock them depending on like which missions you play through, the endings that you get, etc., etc. I completed all the endings to this game. You just need to complete 2 of the endings to get all the parts in the shop for free. So I already did that. There's nothing for me to buy. Design is where you save the schematics of your armored cores. So once you have like a build that you really like, you just save it in here. You can also get the schematics of enemy armored cores once you face them in story and you've beaten them. So these are a few of the ones I have. Big reference. I'll talk more about that later. My joke armored cores. And then here are the ones that you get from the other pilots in the game whenever you fight them. And AC test, I'll show you guys that in the next part. So I'm gonna wrap this part up here for now. This is going to be a bit more of a session today. So this is the first part of this session. I'll let you guys know when I'm ending the session. So this is, yeah, the introduction to Armored Core Rancer, and I'll catch you guys in part 2. So see ya in a bit.